Hello good people and welcome back. When you hear the name Bobby Fischer, the words aggressive, dynamic, and attacking genius come to mind. When I say Magnus Carlsen, a vision of the GOAT and the best endgame positional player probably takes shape in your mind. Because great tactics depend on very good strategy, and strategy is not realized with accurate attacking tactics, both of these super GMs have internalized the violence of tactics and the subtleties of positional chess. Here I want to show you guys a game that Fischer played all the way back in 1959, where he literally played like Carlsen. He locked in like Magnus. It's hella impressive. Let's boost that ELO. Let's get it.
Round 1. Fight!
This game took place in a Mar del Plata, Argentina tournament in 1959, all the way back before YouTube, Twitch, and everything else modern today. It's between Robert James Fischer and Hector Decio Rosero. Oh, before I forget, if you find this content useful and you kind of like it, please leave a like and sub. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. So Bobby starts with e4, best by test. According to Bobby, the opponent fights with c5, c5 being a Sicilian defense. And here, adjusting my seat, knight to f3 by Bobby, e6, d4, c takes c, knight takes d, and a6, preventing ideas there, and supporting the idea of b5 for, say, a fianchetto. c4 by Bobby. This is known as the Maroczy bind, where two of the pawns here on e4 and c4 exert pressure on d5, and you can kind of already tell we're headed towards a very strategic route. Queen to c7, knight to c3, knight to f6, bishop to d3, developing and hoping to castle early. Knight to c6, developing and also applying tension. Where does the knight want to go? Does the knight want to retreat a la Kramnik style? Or bishop to e3, knight takes, bishop takes, and now bishop to c5. Both are playing standard moves. Black will castle next, and you'll notice that Black is trying to reduce the position a bit, likely wary of Fischer's attacking potential, but it seems to me that Fischer actually wants to play this game strategically. So White plays bishop to c2, allowing potentially an exchange, and also just maintaining the tension in the middle. d6 first, and here castle by Fischer. Bishop to d7. We have knight to a4, hoping to trade, and so after exchanging there, White will have a double bishop pair. Really good when the position opens up. Bishop takes on d4, queen takes on d4, now rook to d8. Rook f to d1, castle king, rook to c1, eyeing and protecting, and both the rooks are connected, and the same is the case for Black. Queen to a5. The idea of queen to a5 is putting the queen in a relevant square here, but also clearly and glaringly attacking this twice. You take, which you can't, which you shouldn't, that doesn't work. So the threat becomes, well, this is attacked twice. What does White do? Fischer exchanges, or attempts to exchange with queen to b6. Now offering the opponent, do you want a more active position for your queen, or do you want to play this in a technical game where some guy named Level Up Chess will review this in many years so that he can demonstrate how Fischer can play like Magnus Carlsen? So if he doesn't opt for an exchange, it's likely queen to g5, then knight to c3, rerouting, bishop to c6, defending, but also putting the light square bishop in an active square, and just keeping everything solid. Maybe b4 next. That's not what happened in the game. After queen to b6, queen to queen offering, Black took the challenge. And now the knight goes here, untouched, but it's also not a very strong square for the knight. Mind you, the knights would like to be in the middle of the board, or at least exert its influence in the middle of the board. the knight here influences d5 and d7 at the moment, even though it cannot be easily booted that way unless the rook goes here. But of course, bishop to c6, avoiding the trade there. f3, just strengthening the pawn chain. Knight to d7 now, kind of finalizing. Let's trade knights. So yeah, black is offering to liquidate the position even further to make it simpler. Maybe he can draw against Fischer, somewhat. And Fischer refuses, and I'd like you to guess what Fischer plays here. It's a very nice binding move. Since we're talking about the Maroczy bind, this is a binding move, and this is something Carlsen would play just to keep the position the way he wants to. Just to exert your will, a very jiu-jitsu-like move. And the answer in 3, 2, and 1. Bobby doesn't retreat. Bobby doesn't trade. He plays knight to d5. And the thing is, the problem with this pawn is if you take, say, e takes on d, e takes on d, this is kind of trapped. But also, this will need defending, and this pawn has been pushed, so there's more territory for white, and there is a backwards, you can call it a backwards pawn in that way. Knight to e5, you can't really, like, you'll have to lose it, so, and then you boot out the knight. Maybe capture here, knight takes, d takes, takes, and now open check after takes. Yeah. This is weak, and it does look a little equal, but who can tell? There's 2 rooks. This is super complicated, by the way. So, after knight to d5, I'm going to assume that Rossetto still wants a draw and or maybe win against Fischer, but likely wants to draw. So, he reduced the position by taking with the bishop. Bishop takes on d5, then e takes on d5. Notice how this pawn is just cramped up there. e5. Strong moves, keeping the position closed, because when this bishop comes to life, its advantage is for white. It's a scope, it's a sniper. That's what bishops are. b4 by Bobby will put, you can tell from that move that the activity that Fischer wants is on the queen side, ladies and gents. g6 by the opponent, so it's a bit of a race here. Bishop to a4. And after b6, which is quite a weakening move in the position, even so ever so slightly, it says 0.5 by Stockfish. I'd like to show this subtle mistake is a difference between somebody who's a super grandmaster and everybody else who's kind of below. Because if you want to accurately defend this position, you need some piece activity, because the 2 rooks are here, and it's very difficult actually, but the correct move is a5. And I want to show you this long, drawn calculation, and it's actually quite equal even after, and Fischer will likely play c5. After takes, c6. After knight blockades, Fischer can sacrifice the rook. So after takes, he takes, and you see these pawns, well, it's going to be blockaded and protected by bishop to c6. After f5, king to f2, this does become quite exposed. But with this passed pawn and this trifecta block, Fischer can hold his own. So after bishop to a4, b6 question mark, rook to d3, third rank, but also we're now going to try to pick apart the weaknesses in black's position. f5, rook to a3, just highlighting that. And now, again, black plays knight to b8, which is a subtle mistake that has now become a huge mistake, because if you try to defend passively in this kind of position, unfortunately, that's what you'll get, passivity. And yeah, momentum for white. Still the accurate and SuperGM response is a5. So they're after b takes a5, knight to c5. You can't actually take this because there's a pin. You hit here first, and after takes and takes, you defend the 7th rank. And now what you want to do is opt for piece activity in the middle of the board. Now that you blockaded this, right? What seems to me the plan for black is to liquidate the pawns here first, equalize, and after takes and takes, transfer your forces to the king side for defense, but also just to have a look at this now open square in the F file. Super technical stuff. Knight to b8 though, which if I turn on the eval in favor of white by near 2. c5 now by Fischer. And mind you, the light squares belong to the light square bishop. B takes, DC. Rook takes on c5. And here the king moves down to g7. Now Fischer infiltrates. Has control here and likely control here next. Rook to f7. d6. That's not free because this drops. Knight to d7. Like I said, you opt for passivity, you get passivity. Rook to c7. That's the 6th rank. Knight to f8. You double up. Takes and takes. That's 1 square away and it's defended well. And guess what? All this is light square diagonal territory. Now bishop to b3. Just scoping out. Can't move here because we hit. Overload. a5. a4. And I just want to hint that the final position is a complete zug. It's a zugzwang. h6, h3, g5, g4. Magnus-like play. F takes, h takes. And here the opponent resigned because black is in complete zugzwang. So if you move king 2, which is a blunder, but then again, every other move is, and there's a subtle and simple this. And if you take, check. And if you play knight to d7, well, and you can't do anything. The king's too far, this pawn's too far. Basically, you're boxed in. Not for checkmate, but just boxed in and you have no activity. So, Magnus-like play by Fischer, even before the advent of the stockfish. It's just if you understand chess, you understand it from both sides. Attacking, defending, tactics, strategy. And I think it was Fischer who actually quoted that tactical flow is acquired from good strategic positioning of pieces. Hope you guys got something out of that. Well, we now know that Fischer can play like Magnus, but we already knew somewhat that he was an amazing strategist, even though he was very aggressive. Hope you got something out of it. I'll see you guys later. Double peace.